I wanted to start with what's a really interesting poll about how Americans feel about a potential third-party effort. Put this up on the screen. Now, keep in mind that these numbers are not based on any specific third-party candidate. They give people the option of Biden, Trump, or third party, and Biden, DeSantis, or third party. So it can be like, this is basically like the third party candidate of your dreams is the way that voters would interpret this. And this is from Suffolk University, USA Today, well-respected pollsters to the extent that such a thing exists anymore. Biden, they have at 34, over Trump at 32, third party taking 23% of the vote. And interestingly, actually, the margin is wider for Biden if he's against DeSantis, 33 over DeSantis's 26, with a third party at 25%. So you basically have in this poll a reflection of the fact that people are really not excited about any of these choices, to be perfectly honest with you. And even though you have a lot of hard partisan loyalists in this country, you also have a lot of people who would theoretically be open to a third-party candidate. Now, of course, there are a lot of barriers in the U.S. to third-party candidates running, to them having success. It's not easy to obtain ballot access. There are only a few organizations that do. But as I said, I think this really reflects how you have higher interest in this election in third-party efforts than I believe you did last time around. I think the levels are more consistent with the third-party interest we saw in 2016 when people were really not excited about Trump, and there were a lot of people really not excited about Hillary Clinton. And so you had Gary Johnson and you had Jill Stein in those elections. Now, liberals will tell you Jill Stein was a spoiler and she got enough, et cetera, to throw the election. I would personally say that Democrats should have done a better job appealing to voters if they wanted to win that election. But there is no doubt that there is a heightened interest in a third-party effort this time around. And so you see some burgeoning third-party efforts. We've already covered here how Dr. Cornel West, who is, on the left, he's really well-respected, well-known political thinker and academic. He had initially announced that he was going to be running as a People's Party candidate, which people, including myself, found quite perplexing because they don't have ballot access in most states. They don't have any track record of fielding a candidate or having success fielding a candidate. And so if you're running just as People's Party candidate, you're basically a glorified write-in, which the limits of, the efficacy of that is going to be quite limited. Well, he just announced that he is going to be actually pursuing the nomination of the Green Party. Put this up on the screen. I think Ryan and Emily covered this yesterday as well, but I thought it was important for us to chime in on this too. Cornel West says, in the spirit of a broad united front and coalition strategy, I'm pursuing the nomination of the Green Party for President of the United States. Go to cornelwest24.com for more information to continue to support this unprecedented effort to empower precious poor and working people here and abroad. I thank the volunteers of the People's Party for the initial launch. And Saagar, I got to tell you, I think this is I think the Biden administration should be pretty concerned about this.
Yeah, they should.
Because Cornel West, Dr. West, is a powerful person. He's a powerful orator. He has a voice of moral conscience and moral clarity that is incredibly compelling to people, even people who disagree with him on some of the issues. He's very effective at talking to people who don't agree with him exactly on the issue. I mean, he used to go on Fox News. I don't know if he still does.
I remember
Fox News all the time. He's known for, being willing to reach out to anyone who's willing to have any sort of legitimate or honest conversation, even some people who aren't willing to have really a good faith conversation. He's a very compelling figure at a time when people are desperate for any sort of alternative to what is a really depressing choice between Biden and Trump. So I think this is quite significant that he's decided to pursue a Green Party effort because they do have ballot access in almost all of the states. So this is a much more serious organization that'll be behind him.
Exactly. So now that he has ballot access, at least in all 50 states, it will mean that, look, he's got much higher name ID, arguably, than even Jill Stein did at that time. He's got a significant period in order to force the issue, force media coverage. All he really has to do is, at least not even place necessarily, but he, get some media attention, have some real events, and that's it. Like, game on, especially if you start showing up in the polls. I mean, overall, the Biden administration should be terrified. I was just reading this morning politically.
Yeah.
RFK Jr. is very likely going to win the first two states in the Democratic primary.
Iowa and New Hampshire.
Iowa and New Hampshire, because they are likely to go forward and not treat South Carolina as the first, even though the DNC changed the rules. Biden is likely not even going to be able to contest in those states. Now, the media and everybody else will do their best to just downplay that and say it didn't happen. A win is a win, okay? When you win something, you have to cover it. So you have 2 Kennedy wins in those first 2 states going into South Carolina. Okay, Biden probably will do well in South Carolina. But guess what? Then, Krystal, what are we? We're right around the corner from Super Tuesday. And when you have got all that media attention, then you could have high third-party initiative. You could have Kennedy literally winning the first 2 states. And all of a sudden, you're in a way weaker political position than probably any modern president since Jimmy Carter ran in 1980.
And remember the drumbeat from the media. Biden's opponents aren't serious. They're not qualified. I mean, they have done everything they can to just pretend like it's not happening. And that's necessary because otherwise, you know, the fact that the DNC is saying we're absolutely not going to have any debates or any real, like, small d democratic process becomes completely unconscionable. You know, overwhelmingly voters, including voters in the Democratic Party, think there should be debates, think there should be a real process here by which voters can evaluate Joe Biden and RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson and anyone else who gets into the Democratic primary race. So, yeah, the fact that you have the 2 early states, I mean, as much as they will want to ignore and just pretend like that didn't happen either, and there will be some chunk of the electorate that's like, yeah, you're right, that doesn't really count. You can't just completely dismiss out of hand if the guy who's in the White House loses the first 2 early states. And so to get back to Dr. West and his role here, you know, the reason I say that I think it's a problem for Biden, these things can be complex about which party a third-party candidate actually takes away from, but Dr. West is clearly on the left, and Biden has a real weakness on his left at this point because especially post Ron Klain leaving as chief of staff, their whole strategy has been to pivot towards the right. I mean, they crushed the railway workers as one example. They did, you know, terrible situation with the debt ceiling and the deal that they end up striking with the Republicans. They've just on issue after issue chosen to pivot to the right because I assume electorally they think, oh, this is what we've got to do in order to appeal to the quote unquote center for a general election. But now you've got an issue where you've pissed off environmentalists, you've pissed off a lot of your progressive base on the left. They're actively looking for other alternatives. And now you not only have some strong contenders in the Democratic primary, you've got a really powerful force coming at you in the general election as well. So listen, do I think a third-party effort could succeed and actually, you know, Dr. West become president of the United States? No, not because of any fault of his own, but because of structural barriers that exist in American politics. Could it really reshape the quality and tenor and direction of this election? There's no doubt about it, especially with him pivoting to a Green Party run and with the fact that the Biden administration still, even with, they think they've crushed the left. They think that the left will show up, that they'll vote blue no matter who, because the alternative is so bad. I mean, this genuinely, I think, is how they see it, that they don't have to do anything to win over the young voters who are disgusted with Joe Biden, who are on the left, who are disgusted with Joe Biden. They think they don't have to do anything. And, you know, we saw them make that calculation in 2016, and we saw how it worked out for them. Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.